President Trump puts the brakes on federal funding for California high-speed rail. He said, enough is enough. We're not giving you any more money because this is quite literally the train to nowhere. Let's get right into that story.
The federal money train to California has stopped. Today's announcement, pulling $4 billion from the state's high-speed rail project, put Governor Newsom on a path to court. But lengthy litigation could further stall the line that's over budget and overdue. The Trump administration had previously threatened to pull the funding just last month.
But now that the money has been officially terminated, Governor Newsom says ending the Fed's funding agreement is illegal and abandons the future of transportation that would have been routed through the Central Valley. In a statement tonight, the governor said in part, quote, "We're now in the track laying phase and building America's only high-speed rail."
Track lane phase. It's supposed to go hundreds of miles, and it's gone about one or two. That's how many tracks they've laid. And it's taken about over a decade to get to this point. So it's taken a long time to get to the track lane phase that Newsom's talking about.
California is putting all options on the table to fight this illegal action, end quote. California voters first approved the project in 2008 to build the rail line connecting the valley to Los Angeles and the Bay Area by 2020 at a cost of $33 billion. Since then, the spending skyrocketed to more than 100.
If you're watching on video, that is about as much as they've gotten done, whatever you're seeing on video. That's the tracks right there. That's what they're getting done.
$100 billion with little progress. Construction is currently underway for a 171-mile section of track between Merced and Bakersfield. Testing on that portion is planned for 2028. Department of Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy posted on social media saying California's train to nowhere is now projected to cost $135 billion.
For that price tag, we could give every single resident of LA and San Francisco almost 200 free flights. This is the definition of government incompetence and possibly corruption. That's why we're pulling the plug. No more federal funds for this high-speed train to nowhere.
President Trump had pulled funding for the project during his first administration, but California sued and regained funding during the Biden administration. High-Speed Rail Authority board member Henry Perea sent a statement to Action News tonight, saying the board expected this move. He added, quote, "We have enough money to continue our work for the next 2 years and are currently working with the governor and legislature to make this a California project and fund it accordingly."
So as we all know, the California high-speed rail has been a boondoggle. It's been a project that is almost at this point emblematic of government bureaucracy and corruption and bloat and all of that, where they just keep pouring money and billions and billions and billions of dollars into a project. It continues to get delayed. It continues to meet or miss its deadlines. This is all coming from a report that the Transportation Department had done, where they did not agree that the fact that they were going to hit their 2033 completion target for its initial segment. So not even the actual full train, the initial segment, they're not going to hit by 2033, which is coming up in 8 years or so. So they got 8 years. The federal government said, we don't even think you're going to hit the initial segment in 8 years. As Secretary Duffy said there, it is ballooning the cost about to $135 billion to complete. And they said this is absolutely out of control right now. Is supposed to be around $30 billion. Someone in the chat made a really good point, and I say this a lot often. California already has high-speed rail. It's called airlines. That America has high-speed rails. They're called airlines. You have Southwest Airlines. That's the fastest way to get around California without having to build all of these train tracks. But I did want to talk about this article. This was written by our good friend of the show, Lance Christensen, from the California Policy Center. I really strongly recommend you go check that site out. They're a great site. They do some great journalism. He did an op-ed on this. It also appeared in the Epic Times. He said, let's do some accounting. The original cost estimate in 2008 was $33 billion for a significant portion of a purported statewide system. Today, we're staring down a price tag north of $100 billion and climbing. The so-called initial operating segment, the IOS, A rail line through the middle of nowhere is projected to cost $35 billion. So far, $13 billion has been spent on what exactly we're still trying to figure out. This is where taxpayer money goes to die. And who exactly is going to ride this train? A 2023 High-Speed Rail Authority report quietly slashed ridership projections by 25%. Even the authority can't deny what post-COVID trends and common sense make clear. When given the choice, Californians prefer the flexibility of their own cars or planes that actually take off and land in places they want to go. The Madera to Shafter corridor doesn't connect major population centers, tourist attractions, or economic hubs. It's like building a luxury cruise line between two puddles. He goes on to say, the comprehensive route from San Francisco to Los Angeles, Anaheim is now estimated to cost up $128 billion. We already talked about that. Take that number and divide it by the estimated distance of track to be laid, and the cost is more than $200 million per mile. That is nearly 3 times higher than the original total projected cost for the entire system. And don't forget the financing trickery. The High-Speed Rail Authority is propped up by California's cap and trade program, which funnels roughly $1 billion per year to the project. That's money siphoned away from everything touched by carbon pricing, energy bills, gas prices, and even food costs. In essence, Californians are paying more their daily lives to bankroll a train that they will never ride. And this is coming, obviously, after many, many years. People who are here in California know the high-speed rail has become a joke. It's become a political joke at this point, to the point where it is so symbolic or emblematic of the corruption and the bloat of California government and these projects, right? I think the CEO or someone like that who runs the High-Speed Rail Authority makes over $500,000, $550,000 a year. I mean, people are making hand over fist a ton of money. I'm wondering, like Lance Christensen said in that article, where did $13 billion go? Most of it is going to consultants to write these reports, these complex reports that they spend a whole bunch of money on. Nothing gets done because all they do is write these reports, and no track is being laid. Nothing's happening. Now it was going to go from San Francisco to Los Angeles. Then it's going to go to sort of around through the Central Valley. There is a train that is being built by a private company from LA to Las Vegas, and it's going to be done before the high-speed rail gets done, which is just an example of how private enterprise will outpace and beat government work 10 times out of 10. Right? They're building this. I forget what the name of the company is, but you can look them up. They are building a train from Los Angeles to Las Vegas, high-speed rail, and they're going to get it done way faster than what's happening here in California. So President Trump obviously looked at all of this and said, well, enough is enough. We're not going to give you any more money because you can't. First, you failed this report that you sent to us to show what's happening, when you're going to complete it. We looked at the specifics, and you're not going to do any of this stuff. You're failing everything. So therefore, a condition of you getting this federal money is to meet a certain amount of deadlines. You can't just get unlimited amount of federal money. Maybe the Biden administration thought that they could just give them an unlimited amount of money. But President Trump and Secretary of Transportation, Sean Duffy, had said, enough is enough. We are now freezing this. Of course, it's going to go in the lawsuit. There's going to be a litigation. They're going to fight over this and stuff like that. Whether or not they abided by whatever correct federal procedure, it is tiresome to think about how many federal procedures there are that are in place to gum up the work. So stuff like this can't be easily repealed. But regardless, it is a huge hit to the California high-speed rail project. And I looked up the numbers. At the end of 2023, approximately 24% of the California high-speed rail project's committed funding came from federal sources, with the remaining 76% provided by the state of California. And this is based on the high-speed rail's funding breakdown, where the project have received about $23 billion in combined state and federal funding, with federal grants accounting for a little less than a quarter. So it's not all of it, right? It's not going to be all of the money. It's not all being federally funded. There's a good amount of it, though. To lose 25%, about a quarter of your funding on a project like this, is an enormous hit to the project's ability to even get done. It's not like it's getting done anyway at this point, but 25% is definitely something that is going to put a huge damper on this. Now, keep in mind, if they have to fill that gap, that 25% gap for the funding that they are now losing from the federal government, this is a state government that has been perpetually seeing big billion-dollar budget deficits year after year, right? This year we saw a $12 billion budget deficit that they plugged with some financing, shenanigans and trickery and stuff like that. They borrowed from themselves. They moved money around to make it look like they balanced the budget. But every year there is a budget deficit. Outside of COVID, which I'm sure there was some shenanigans there where they were taking COVID money and made it look like they had a huge surplus. And now they're facing the fact that they don't have money to pay for the high-speed rail. They face a huge budget deficit every single year. Where are they going to get the money from? It's not going to be the federal government as long as President Trump is there, or probably whenever there's a Republican in office. They're not going to get that funding anymore.